we're live.
And we're live. Okay, hold on. I gotta transition from night peddlers to mud peddlers.
Yeah, we did just do a night peddlers.
Don't know why we're singing.
I don't know why you sing at the beginning of.
I think it's. I don't know why. It's like a. I think it's like a.
That's
like
your
a release. It's like a lock it in.
That's your lock-in mechanism.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
You're changing modes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. This is The Mud Peddlers, a podcast where two nerdy ceramic artists share the behind the scenes of their worlds of clay. We are your hosts, Lindsey M Dillon.
And I am Donte of Earth Nation.
Let me get my notes, because I actually have notes today. I took so many notes. Look at all these notes.
Oh, you took so many notes.
Yeah, I did. I was laying in bed this morning being
you
like...
see how many notes I took?
Yeah. Ha! Cute.
Yeah. It's a blank screen.
I love it. I love it. All right, this week on The Mud Peddlers, it is the holidays, and so I thought it would be interesting to talk about the ways that you and I have both worked with local businesses, because oftentimes I feel like as ceramic artists, when we begin selling our stuff, sometimes we sell it at, markets, sometimes we sell it online, sometimes we, Etsy, Shopify, website, but also sometimes we end up working with local businesses, and that can be kind of an interesting dynamic. There's lots of lessons to be learned, and so I thought we'd talk a little bit about our experience with that.
Yeah, I don't. I've tried before in the past, and I've kind of, I wouldn't say given up on it, but like, you know me, like, oh, that thing turned out bad. Not doing that anymore. Not doing that ever again.
So you say that, but okay. So I have some thoughts, because I'm like, you and I have both. Is it always like when I say I have some thoughts, because I feel like that's also like a prefacing.
No, that theory, the episode of Rick and Morty popped in my head of like, Rick decided to like be a family man for one episode, and then it burned him, and he's like, that hurt me, and I will never drop my guard again.
Oh God.
I will never do that again. I am a different Rick from this day forward. You will never see me doing that.
Aww.
I can't believe I trusted you. Like, that's how I feel with these shops sometimes.
Oh.
Where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore.
That's fair. Okay, so why don't like, because since you are to some degree, now that you're working with, can I say the company that you're working with? I think we can, right? You've talked about
Clayscapes or Cozy?
Clayscapes.
Love Clayscapes.
Yeah. So like we both like we don't work with a lot of companies, but like we do have a couple that we do work with.
Yeah.
So like, tell me about some of your early experiences working with companies and like why you got burned.
I will say the majority of companies that I've stopped working with versus the ones that I continue to work with, regardless of how much money it makes me. And of course, there's a drop off. Like, it's actually going into my bottom line, then I stop, regardless of personalities. Right. Mm-hmm. But usually it's just the shop owners are like really nice to me and really understanding. And they don't.
I'm just gonna try.
I tell you.
Yep. All right, sorry if you're hearing some like fried chicken sounds in the background. I just turned off the heater, but it makes some sounds. It's a workhorse. It heats the studio during these chilly winter months, but it also gets a little spicy sometimes. So I just unplugged it, so hopefully the sound interference will stop. But carry on.
I will say that the stores that I continue to work with are usually just ones that mesh my personality. But sometimes I meet some, and I use this word sparingly because some people dislike when I say it, but I definitely go into some shops and I try and strike a deal with them, and the person behind the counter is just like a bit of I don't know how to describe it. But
like standoffish?
No, because I'm standoffish, but I'm relatively friendly once you get to know me. I'm just very blunt. Like, the best word I can describe it is like a Karen. Like, you're just they're just kind of like very backhanded with the way they speak all the time, And anyway, I experienced this with a couple of shops, and
are these shops like local in Sacramento, or are these like organizations online? I
won't say the shop, but yes.
Oh yeah, no. You don't have to say the shop. Okay. Well, like, so how was it like a cold call kind of thing where you like walked in and you were like, hey, I'm Donte, I do ceramics, did you want to work together? Like, tell me lay out the story.
Well, I try generally speaking to get products in stores that complement the thing that they're selling. So, for example, if it's a yarn store and they don't have a seller or a buyer for yarn bowls, I want to put my yarn bowls on their shelves.
Right.
So usually what would happen is I would give them a set of yarn bowls that I
No, I mean, like, how did you initially interact with them, though? Because I think that's
I just called them.
Okay, you just called their business?
I just called them on the phone.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm a ceramic artist. Here are my tags. And usually they're like, yeah, we'll see. And then they check me out on Instagram. They're like, oh yeah, please come in. High numbers, good.
Yeah.
But that's generally what I try and do. I try and make products that complement the products that they're already selling.
Mm-hmm.
And so like yarn bowls would go to like a yarn store.
Right.
Or like teacups go to a tea shop. Or teapots go to a tea shop. Or like if you're a cafe, I would try and sell you mugs.
Right.
Something like that. And if they sell out fast enough and people like them and they're fairly priced, then people buy them more and we just keep going and going.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of continue the relationship from there. But regardless of that, if the shop owner's mean to me, I just leave, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
if I sense any type of passive aggressiveness, any backhandedness, any like talk downing to me, I'm like, I can take my business elsewhere. Like,
yeah.
I don't have to, because I can sell this online. I can sell them on YouTube. I can sell them like I can do other things other than. I just want to build community through you, and you're kind of like the middle person, but I don't have to deal with a mean middle person. Yeah.
I feel like that community aspect is definitely something that is a big part of why I still will work with some local businesses is like, because I think, there's like a number of pros to working with local businesses. Yeah. And I think like, for me, the reason why I still work with a few is because I think contributing to the local creative economy is something that like makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But I think, like, what you're saying is that those personal relationships definitely make a difference where it's like, what is that actual business owner or, representative or whoever it is that you're talking with? What is that interaction like? And I think paying attention to the vibes is important.
It's key for me.
Yeah.
At least, like, half of the reason I work with Clayscapes is because, like, the people who run that place were really nice to me. Went to Ensika, broke bread with them. They were super nice. We talked a little bit of glaze chemistry, like... If they sent me a recipe and they're like, can you help us reformulate this? I just would.
Yeah.
Like, I just would. Yeah. Just because they were so nice to me. And it goes a long way. When people are like, this might be bad time, but people who are like, vote for the guy you, like, want to have a beer with.
Oh, right, right.
I was like, yeah, I want to work with you. Like, you're super cool.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But if I wouldn't drink around them, I probably wouldn't work with them.
Yeah.
I don't trust them to handle my beverage.
Yeah.
Like, I probably wouldn't do business with them. Quote. Wink, wink.
Yeah. So what happened that, like, burned you from some bit? Like, did you have situations where you worked with businesses and then things went sour? Or is it just that, in general, you've always kind of worked with just a few businesses because you've gotten mixed?
The second one, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the second one. Like, I work with, like, about 3 businesses, and I try and keep contact with them, like... For example, and I don't know how far this goes, but with Clayscapes, anytime I find something new about recipes that we talk about back and forth, I constantly give them information.
Yeah.
Like, they have their own file in my computer of, like, here's the information I've ever shared with them. Here's the data on that. Here's the recipes. Here's XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. Right?
Yeah.
And, like, usually it's just me feeding them my information just because this is kind of the start of our relationship. But, like, it's the same thing with Tea Cozy. If Tea Cozy, a couple months before Tea Cozy, I'm just like, hey, I have new designs. What are you doing? Are we still doing avatar stuff? Are we moving along? What are we doing? I can make stuff to complement your stuff so that our table can work together. And they're super nice to me. They give me tea sometimes. They always say hi. I bring my kid and my wife in.
Yeah.
They're super cool.
I love Tea Cozy. By the way, like, shameless plug for Tea Cozy.
Shameless.
They have an online store, so if you want some, like, awesome loose leaf teas, go to Tea Cozy. They have an online shop. You can buy them.
Yeah.
They can send it to you, and they're great. We love them. They don't sponsor us, but they've hired us for many things, and we love working with them. Like,
right.
I think there are some. Okay, so I've had a bit of a different journey than you in terms of working with. So so I guess I've got a couple different thoughts here, but to start out, like, kind of thinking about, like, with Tea Cozy, I shopped at Tea Cozy from the time that I was, like, a high schooler, right? So
they've always been there.
Yeah, they've been around for, like, what, 25 years or something. Like, I made 25-year anniversary cups for them.
Yeah,
it's great. Or maybe it was 30 years. Oh my gosh,
I think it was 25 because there's still one cup left there, and I think they told me it was like 25.
Okay, okay. So when I got the invitation to work with them, I was like, I will work for you even if I lose money on this project.
Yeah, even if I break even.
Yeah.
Because you're so cool.
Because you're just awesome.
Yeah,
like,
you're awesome.
Yeah. There's definitely, like, I think it's kind of fun to, like, have a list, a short list, because I think it's important to have a short list,
yeah,
of like, these are the people that I would work with. These are the local businesses I would work with, even if I like just broke even or like even lost money, because like, I just want to work with you so much that, and again, like, I think that also requires like knowing that like that business respects you enough to like not take advantage of your goodwill, because that's
100%.
definitely a big thing. But that's basically kind of how I manage accepting working with businesses now, because for the most part, so like again, I used to work with local businesses a lot more, like especially when I moved back to Sacramento after graduating from UC Santa Cruz. I did a lot of work with this shop in downtown or in the Midtown area called Old Gold. Mm-hmm. Awesome, locally owned, female owned shop, gift shop, and that was a really interesting experience, because I can't really remember how we got connected. I think
that was here.
Yeah, here in Sacramento.
I think I remember Old Gold.
Yeah. I mean, they're still around. It
was like millennial vintage.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that, but it wasn't antique.
No, it was like they have vintage clothes, and then they source from local makers for like gifts. Yeah. So they sell like candles, like makeup kits, jewelry, gift cards, patches, all kinds of stuff. Like honestly, they're a neat shop. I don't know if they sell online, but if you're in Sacramento, like go check them out, because they're awesome.
They're at the Warehouse Artist Lofts, the wall in near R and 10th Street, I believe.
Yeah, on the R Street corridor, which is like kind of our like artsy district.
Yeah, it's like the biggest, oldest building in that district. You'll see it if you ever come down.
Yeah. So I worked with Trisha from Old Gold. She's the owner of Old Gold. I worked with her kind of off and on for a couple of years, and it was a really good like learning experience. Like I enjoyed that dynamic of like developing a relationship with her and trying like kind of figuring out, because there was, for her, from what I remember at least, at that point, I didn't necessarily have an established style. I didn't have an established market. Like, I think I was selling at anime conventions by that point, but, I didn't really have, I was definitely very in the early stages of my business.
Right.
So what I got to do with Trisha is she would essentially have an idea for something that she would want made for the store, and then I would make it. And like 2 projects I remember specifically, one that worked out well, one that didn't work out quite as well, was I made like wall hanging air plant holders. And so I made I could hear the disdain in your voice.
No disdain, I promise. Well, my brain, the tone that you might be sensing is me thinking about all the troubles that would come with that.
Oh yeah.
It's not disdain, I promise.
Okay.
It's just like, so the business owner asked the potter to start sculpting things? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and again, that's very fair. And I want to, like, that's the other thing too, is that, like, I think one of the things that's important about when you are working with a local business owner is that understand that, like, they don't know your medium.
Yeah.
They have
no idea.
Yeah. They don't know, like, how much something is going to, like, cost, how much time things takes, so I think, like, being able to communicate really clearly about, like, for instance, if someone just kind of, because at least for, again, I'm sort of jumping around here, but like if someone approaches you online with kind of like a somewhat vague like introduction of like, hey, I'm such and such shop, can we work together? I think it's really important to kind of ask those questions. And I know I've talked about before where it's like, thank them for reaching out, because that's always a goodwill thing to do. Thank you for reaching out. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you have in mind for the project? Do you have a timeline in mind for when you want this done? And do you have a budget in mind?
Yes.
And then as you kind of narrow down those things, like again with Trisha and with making like the air plant, holders, that was a big learning curve for me. And I think that in some ways the hardest thing about starting to work with businesses, especially if you are still relatively young in your like business, is figuring out pricing that works. Because I think I definitely worked at, and again, I'm not throwing any shade on Old Gold or Trisha or anything, but I definitely worked at a bit of a loss with in that situation, because I was also learning a lot, like, 'cause I had never made air plant holders before. Like, I didn't know what all it was going to take. There was a lot of experimentation, and ultimately, like, that worked well. She ended up later ordering, like, just kind of basic, like, mugs. Those sold well. She was also interested in my making, like, ceramic tiles, like miniature ceramic tiles that could be made into jewelry.
Yeah.
That experiment didn't go quite as well, but...
That's an art, really.
Yeah, that was definitely like, okay, this is kind of beyond my skill and beyond, like, I think that was a situation where, like, the time that it was taking to, like, make those things was, like, not worth what she was wanting to pay for it.
Yeah.
Which is, again, like, a delicate thing, and I think, again, just with all of this, like, and again, this is, again... totally my perspective, raised as a woman, raised as, like, all these things, is that, like, I approach things from a very, like, polite perspective of, like, trying to understand that, like, again, they don't...
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't do that.
No, not even like that.
Oh, okay.
Not even like that. I more so mean, like, being able to, like, know what your limits are, but communicate them, like, in a polite way. To be like, you know, I understand this is a project that you want, however, you know, these are, like, why, like, the timelines may not fit, you know, but... approaching it from understanding that, like, if they ask you for something that sounds completely insane, understand that, or at least I'll say, leave room for the possibility, and in my mind, the likelihood that they just don't know. Because, again, they don't know your medium. If they're true, like, hey, can you give me, you know, 100 cups in a week? It's like, yeah,
that's not really no.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Here's what I can do.
Yeah.
I think, like, I'm a big fan of this won't work, but here's what I can do.
Yes.
And I think that has definitely helped a lot with, like, if I do want to work with someone, that is a big thing of being able to say, like, okay, if what we want is kind of like a mismatch in terms of either the time or the budget or things like that, being able to say, like, if you do still want to work with this company, being able to say, okay, I can't quite do this, but here's what I can do.
Yeah.
And that, or, like, another thing I'm a big fan of doing is if I don't, you know, for whatever reason, if I'm not interested in working with this, you know, store or business or whatever, or, like, even if I get, like, invited to be a part of a artisan show, but I don't have either the time or the inventory, I'm a huge fan of recommending other artists because that is a way to still, first of all, it helps those artists that you're recommending.
Yeah.
And it also creates, like, goodwill between yourself and the person who reached out. So even if you don't end up working with them, you're still helping them out by saying, okay, I can't do this, but here's some other artists who might be able to help you.
I agree. And also as we get more refined in our art form and we find our style, we get more funneled into, like, what we're really good at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so sometimes they want, like, hey, can you do this?
Yeah.
And then I go, well, that's not really the skill tree I chose.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
that my skill path touches on that, but it doesn't go down as far as you want it to. So if I've definitely had a couple of people, regardless of them being businesses or not, contact me and go, like, hey, can you make one of these? And it's like a 3-foot
yeah, I remember you talking about
red vase.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I can technically, but if I'm being honest with you, you can probably buy that for a couple $100 from a shop. I'm like, no, I want it handmade. And I'm like, okay, well, it's gonna be like $2,000.
Yeah.
And that's probably $500 of that is, like, me making it and then firing it at a place because I don't have a kiln as large as, like, my whole garage.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not a thing I have. And then you also have to plan for, like, you know, if they order, like you said, 100 cups, a couple of those might die. You don't make 100 cups. You make 120 cups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a huge thing. And that reminds me of, like, another thing to consider when you're, like, thinking about working with a business, especially during the holidays.
Especially.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the times, you know, again, folks may not understand the timeline with ceramics.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, like, one of the reasons why I kind of stopped working with a lot of businesses or stopped seeking out working with businesses is because of those timeline challenges. Because what I was finding myself doing was like right before kind of the big holiday push between SAC Anime Summer and SAC Anime Winter.
Yeah.
A lot of, you know, I would end up working on these projects that, you know, were projects that I wanted to work on. But I was realizing that it was negatively impacting my overall profits because I was spending more time working on projects where it's like, you know, I don't know, let's say, I'll just do like a hypothetical where it's like, all right, I'm going to make 50 cups at $25 each. And that business is going to be selling them for like $45.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I could make those 50 cups, sell them myself for $45, you know?
Right.
So I was running into the problem of not having enough inventory for like SAC Anime Summer, SAC Anime Winter, my own shop updates, and I was creating more stress for myself in that way.
Yeah. And the shop, if you're selling them, I wouldn't use the word wholesale, but if you're selling
that is actually something we should talk about though, is like wholesale versus consignment a bit. But carry on.
If you're selling them, I wouldn't say wholesale, but if you bring like somebody 10 mugs, and there's essentially two options that I have seen, right? Not that there's more than two, but it's usually they pay for the mugs and then they pay they're like, okay, I'm going to set these mugs at a price, and the price I want to set them at is regardless of you, the artist.
Yes.
Right? Or you can come in and say, hey, I'm selling these for this amount each. I would just like to buy shelf space. And then they're just going to mark it up.
Yeah. And that's basically the wholesale versus consignment.
Yes.
Like for those who don't know, like wholesale is usually when, or okay, I'll say, my experience with wholesale is it's usually larger orders and you basically are being paid a flat fee for each individual item. So again, let's say I make 50 cups at $25 each.
Yes.
Consignment is when you either are buying like shelf space, like there, I know there are some businesses where you basically pay like a monthly fee for like a flat fee for how much you're paying for the shelf space.
Yeah.
And then you have items that you sell on top of that, and then they take a percentage.
Yeah.
More often what I've seen is that they just take the percentage. You're not actually renting the shelf space. But so that would be a situation where it's like, okay, I make 50 mugs. I'm gonna sell them for $35. And then the shop that I'm selling them at is gonna take a percentage. And I have done both. I think I generally prefer wholesale. My understanding is that usually wholesale pricing is usually a bit like cheaper than like what you get with consignment, but the benefit is that you get paid up front. Like no matter. That's
what I like too.
Yeah. Like I have definitely run into the issue of like, how do I say? I'll present something as in like a consignment situation. Yeah. And then what's tricky about that is that you're then relying on the business to do like more of the marketing and the selling, and they have an interest in doing that, of course, because they're the ones owning the business. They want those things to sell. Yeah. But it's also like you're then kind of like waiting for that money to be coming in. And I don't know. I mean, again, I would like to have someone on at some point to like maybe two guests who, one who does a lot of wholesale, one who does a lot of consignment, and kind of like properly debate the two benefits. Yeah. But I'll say what I like about wholesale is that like you get the money up front. And then it's whatever that business wants to do with however they market it and sell it. That's their business. The other big benefit is that whether like you do like kind of like one of the general pros of like why you would work with a business in the first place is that you are not responsible for the marketing and the selling and like the packaging. Yes. You just get to make the thing, hand it off and go, cool.
Consignment, you're like, I got to tell people it's in this shop. Right? Wholesale is like, no, it's your job now to tell them it's in the shop.
No, not necessarily. I think both. I think like yes, there is like if there's a spectrum of like how much work you got to put in, the lowest level is wholesale because you've already been paid for it. Next level is consignment because like, you want people to like, you want to kind of funnel people there a little bit more. I mean, you want to funnel people to the shop either way. Yeah. But then if you're not working with a business at all, then you are the one who's 100% doing all the marketing, all the selling, all the shipping, all that. So in general, like when I'm thinking about like, what are the pros of working with a local business? Yeah. One of those is that it's an income stream that does not require you to do anything beyond the like making of the product. And depending on what you like to do with your business, like if you love making the thing, but you're just like, I hate marketing this stuff. Yeah. Then for you, like the cut that or the decrease that you get on profits per item is worth it because you don't have to do all the marketing. Whereas like when part of the reason I stopped working with businesses as much is because my own online, following was kind of giving me like, I was having trouble meeting the demands of just like my own online following, that it was kind of like, okay, basically the only businesses that I work with are ones where it's like, I have a very like strong personal interest in working with this business, or I have a previous relationship with them. And like, this last month I made a set of bowls for K&K Chai, which is a local tea company. And I hadn't worked with them in a couple years, but they're an awesome company. Like, and so I was like, yeah, like I can have this project that you're asking for does not significantly put me behind on the other projects that I have, even though it's like right before the holidays. So I can do this and I can work with you because we have that relationship. Anyway, sorry, I've been saying a lot of words.
I'll say I can echo that on top of the fact that I prefer wholesale over consignment, because you're right. There's more of an impetus to advertise your own stuff because you're paying for shelf space if you're using consignment. And I imagine, I don't know, from a business owner's point of view who has like a brick and mortar place, let's just use like a tea shop or a yarn shop, right?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you're buying shelf space from me. It's kind of your job to attract people towards that shelf. As for with wholesale, and granted, you want to funnel people that way anyway.
Yeah.
But for wholesale, it's like, hey, I want to buy a product from you, and then I want to sell that product. I'll pay you up front. Okay, you've paid me up front. The amount of money in which I will maximize from this one transaction is already done because you've paid me. At this point, you are going to regulate your own shelf space, your own advertising, your own end caps, your social media perception, everything with my product that you want to sell. Just to make money, the markup is on you now. Yeah. Right? And I will say I echo the fact that you want to drive people there. You want to drive people there regardless. Yeah. But like, you're kind of right in that like there's more pressure on you to do more work with consignment than there is anything else. And that's why I almost never do consignment anymore. In fact, the place I was talking to you about earlier, which I won't name, was like very consignment based. And her attitude is very like, well, that's on you, dog. Yeah, and I was just like, well, you did sell out of them, and you are making money off of it. And she's like, yeah, but like, I don't know, try harder. And I was like, I'm just gonna stop working with you. You seem like I'm bothering you by making you money, and it's irritating to me. It's creeping me out that like, am I being I can't tell if it's me or if it's them. Yeah, but with other places, they're just like, yeah, we just want to buy a product from you. Well, and then they go. Next year, they usually go, can we have more? And I go, yeah, no problem. Yeah. I make it, I give it, I go back to what I was doing. I go back to what I call minding my own business. And then they start minding their business. It's a double entendre, you see, because we both have businesses. Yeah. See? Yeah, I see. I get it. Right, and I will say if I get like a bit of a vibe of like, bro, you're bugging me. And I try and make the communication very clear. Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm constantly apologizing to like the companies I work with. Like, hey, if I'm being too annoying or if I'm feeding you too much information or if I'm on your ass too much, let me know, please. And I'll just go, like, tell me to F off and I will. You know? Yeah. Like, I try and be very clear communication and blunt about it. Yeah. I understand that's not everyone's communication style, but some businesses sometimes... And the final thing I'll say about it is, like, have you ever walked into a store and you saw the person behind the counter and they kind of look at you like, what does this want? If I get that energy at all, I'm like, I'm not going to work with you anymore. Yeah. I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. Just the fact that you had that before I spoke to you tells me that I don't want to be here. You could have the best product in the world. If the service isn't good, I won't come to your shop anymore. Unless your product is like no other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. Yeah. That makes me think of like another kind of integral part of when you work with businesses, like you're talking about like that, the clear and kind of frequent communication. Yeah. One of the toughest things that I've had to do when I work with other businesses is when like something negative comes up. Yeah. Like if there's been like a delay, like I think especially if you were trying something new, like when I was making the, wall hanging air plant holders, there's a lot of experimentation that went along with that. Kind of the same thing when I made the cafe ware for Insight Coffee Roasters, because, I had never, up to that point, I had never made like a set of consistent dishes like to fill a certain like volume. Yeah. So there were times where I had to be like, hey, I know I said that I was going to get this project done within this time, but this is a thing that came up. It's going to take a bit longer. Oh, yeah. And that is, I hate doing that because it's like really painful to admit that like I messed something up, but it is important to communicate. Like you don't have to like go, begging on your knees like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But like take I think it's clear. You just got to take responsibility for like when something like that happens. Yeah. And then like one of the things that I've done is one time when I was working with again Insight Coffee Roasters and By the Rain Wine Cellars,
because they had like a cooperation together.
Mm-hmm.
I made a set of, or I was trying to make a set of charcuterie boards for them. And oh boy, there was so much trial and
suck.
There's so, oh my God.
Anything
clay,
flat sucks.
Yeah.
Anything flat
Clay
sucks.
does not like to be long and flat.
Nope.
It does not.
Nope.
So it literally took me like, I think 3 or 4 months longer.
Yeah.
To like get this project done, and I ended up giving them like a 30% discount on the total order because it took me that long. So it sucked. It was like painful, but
yeah,
I think those kinds of things are like, if you don't want to work with a business because they seem to be like salty for no reason,
yes.
like you want to give them, that business, like a good reason to like work with you, you know?
Yeah, I suppose I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd be much more dry with the transaction. If somebody feels like, you're making me a lot of money, but you're kind of salty with the transaction. Like, every time I see you, you roll your eyes at me, which is crazy.
Ew, no, yeah,
like,
no.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're like, I'll just be like, okay, here's your product. And then I'll just stand there like, money, please. And then once I give them the money, I go, okay, have a good day. Mm-hmm. Leave. That's all I need, right? But with like, with Ticos, I come in, hey, what's good?
How you doing?
And they're like, come smell this new tea. And I'm like, I will smell that new tea.
Yeah, yes, please, thank you.
And they're like, what are you doing with the baby and the wife? And I'm like, we're here to buy tea. And they're like, oh, cool. Do you want to check out this new tea? And like, we talk shop for a little while.
Yeah.
But like, I will say on the front that you're talking about, I will usually preface things with saying not every system runs 100% smoothly. Almost no system does.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I'm making you a set of 20 mugs, I'll often let them know, like, technically speaking, I need money for like 25 mugs because I will be making you 25 mugs. But even though I'm contracted for 20, I need to make extras just in case 5 or so fail. And usually they're cool with it.
I actually do that differently.
Really?
Yeah. So what I normally do is I only charge them, like let's say they want 20 mugs and I plan on making 25. And like, let's say all 25 work out well.
Yes.
I will either give them all 25 or I'll give them like 22 or 23. Like I will usually give them more. Oh. Because for me, that's kind of like my little like goodwill thing. Like, hey, I appreciate that we're working together. This is good. I made some extras.
Yeah.
You know,
here. I don't think I communicated that very well because I'm talking more about a commission that's like if it was like Wally's Wonder World and I would usually tell Wally's Wonder World, hey, those cups that you wanted Wally's Wonder World on, I'm making 25. Right? So you're paying me for 25 even though you've contracted me for 20. I don't usually sell off those extras or anything. I will usually give them the 25 if all 25 came out good. But if I'm doing a regular commission, right, and they contracted me for 20 and I made 25 and like all 25 came out good, I will give them the 20 and sell the other 5.
Oh,
it depends on the commission.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So like if it's something that's like super specific, like you would not sell these mugs elsewhere.
Yes.
Okay.
If it said Insight Coffee Roasters on it, I'd be like, I can't really sell these to the public.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it also looks bad. I'm selling a product that I made for you to the public.
Yeah,
that's I'll just give them the rest.
That's another thing that can be a little bit tricky. And it's like, I think there's a lot of overlap between like when you're working with a business and when you're doing commissions just in general. I think so it's like, I know we have an episode earlier on in talking about how to work with commissions. So feel free to go back and listen to that as well for some more pointers. But yeah, that can be another thing is like, design exclusivity, and that can be something you work out like in a contract. To be honest, most of the time it's been a sort of non-verbal thing for me, is like I kind of just don't you know, I don't like when I made the matcha bowls for K&K Chai, like I just don't sell them anywhere else. I don't make them anywhere else, you know.
I'll say what I usually do is like Ticos is a good example. I made all those avatar cups and they liked them a lot and they kept selling them. And then on the second table they were just like, well, you're selling yours cheaper and they're the same exact item. Yeah. So clearly yours are going to sell. And then we're just going to tell people like, well, you made these ones too. Yeah. And so I just updated the form. I just made a different version of what I had where it's clearly from the same base, but like a whole different design.
Yes.
And then they were like, okay, well now we want those. Because those look updated compared to these. Yeah. And I'm like, well, now we're going to run into the same problem. I'm going to have to update them again. Which I'm cool with, but like, we're going to keep rinsing this problem.
Yeah. That makes me think of, like, I know something, I feel like we're always talking about, like, Ryan and Becca, Bless you. Hello. I'm sorry I haven't returned your messages. This is a recurring thing.
I talk to Ryan like every 2 weeks.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, Ryan is awesome. And as is Becca. I just end up communicating or getting messages from Ryan more often. But anyway, sorry. One of the things that I've heard Ryan talk about, and I'm sure they have talked about this in one of their episodes of Wheel Talk podcast, but I know there are like some designs folks will not do as consignment or wholesale because it's just not worth their profit margins.
That's fair.
And I think that's a really smart idea, because one of the reasons that I stopped doing consignment with a local gift shop, this was several years ago now, but it was really tough seeing like the cut that I would get in profits, because I was selling, so I was doing consignment with them with the same kinds of items that I would sell online and at like anime conventions.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, I can make $65 selling this mug direct to customer, or I can make $35 doing, and again, I think that like for an item that's like quick to make, you know, I can just, I don't know, throw a bowl, throw a cup, something much more simple to make. Like, it makes sense to sell that as consignment or wholesale just in general, because it's faster to produce. But I think that is also something to keep in mind, is like, and again, like what you're saying with like Tea Cozy is like, okay, how do we make a design that is going to be like, allows me to keep making the kind of things that I want to make, and like make items that are going to work well for you as well. And so that's like another thing to consider, is generally speaking, my understanding is that like most artists who do like more complicated design work tend to not sell those items as wholesale or consignment, but they'll have more simplified designs that they do sell as wholesale and consignment. One thing that I'll say I really do appreciate about working with local businesses is it's a really nice way to have an income stream in like the off season. So sometimes what I'll do is like, if I get approached about a project during like the fall and I just don't have time to make it with all the other, you know, convention prep and holiday sales and stuff that I've got going on, I'll say, hey, you know, I want to work on this project with you, but my schedule is booked through December. Can we work on this in January or in February or something like that? Because that is a nice way to kind of still have a more steady income stream when it's not like the capitalist high holidays. So
it's crazy because like all of the advertisements and commercials on like YouTube go up. Mm-hmm. So even if I release a YouTube video and it does moderately well, it'll get like double the commercials.
Oh, really?
Just because it's that season.
Oh, right? Yeah. I
often have and I think we've talked about this, I often have a choice to put mid-roll ads versus beginning and end ads. Mm-hmm. And YouTube will straight up tell me, like, not nobody, but a lot of people don't watch all the way to the very end of the video.
Right.
And at the end of the video, once they start your next video, they'll get double the ads. So it'll be like, hey, an ad, the video, you watch the video, at the end there's an ad, and then your next video there's an ad, and then so it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Yeah.
So what they suggest is that you just do mid-roll ads. So like every 5 minutes or so, they'll get an ad that they can skip.
Super irritating.
It's super irritating, but they're like, you will make double the money
if
people watch all the way through. Mm-hmm. During this holiday season, sometimes they're like, nah, you getting two ads.
Oh, wait, like they force you to?
Force is a strong word, but they're like, we're getting more money for advertisers to push more advertising. You are the medium in which we push the advertising through.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not only going to give you longer ads, sometimes you'll get like double ads anyway. So the commercials that get the beginning of your ads, instead of a commercial, you're just getting like one big ad that they smush together. So what's happening to me right now is that instead of getting one ad for one product over the course of 10 seconds that I can skip, they'll give me a 30-second ad spot. And then they'll allow me to skip, and it'll go straight into another ad. But because they blocked it in 30 seconds, they're like, oh, that's your one ad.
Oh, interesting.
Blah, 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 you know?
Interesting.
And so the ads have essentially like doubled during the holiday season. Just so they can sell more products.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To people who are, you know, kind of like, oh, product, you know.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Like income consistent.
Yeah, because you
okay,
had mentioned consistent income, and
I
was like, it's kind of weird right now for holiday seasons.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I misunderstood.
Let me be more clear. As far as consistent income goes, if you have something that's making passive income like YouTube or Patreon or something like that, like I have, it's kind of weird during the holidays because it gets up to like 3 or 4-fold, especially during the buying season. For example, the commercials thing I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It's just the commercials go up like times 2 during the holiday season if you make YouTube videos, regardless of how popular your video is or not. But I do think it's good to have. It's almost like always having like something in the shop. Like I have nothing in my shop right now. Mm-hmm. I need to put some stuff in the shop.
Dude, same. Should we? Okay, so kind of on that note, should we do a little bit of like a kiln plug? Man, I don't have anything to plug because I don't have enough time.
I could go home right now and like, mash 20 things on the shop and put them up, and I should before the holiday season. But also, part of me is like.
Kind of just want to save it for Sac Anime?
Yeah, part of me is like kind of want. And then what would happen is I would put all the stuff I didn't sell for Sac Anime on the website, and they would mostly be teacups. You know, I might do that. I might like do a little like, hey, every teacup, no matter what it is $40, including shipping, right? Like that's not shipping tacked onto it. It's just like $40 straight out the door. I'll send it to you, right? And some of them might come in pairs just to get stuff out the door.
Yeah, for like this month, like during the holidays.
Just for this month, because it's already December, and I kind of want people who just like teacups in general to get like their. They're like, oh, I bought a teacup for Christmas.
Yeah,
$40 total. But there's a whole separate thing that I have to do for Sac Anime as far as income goes.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's a whole thing. And I'm kind of in the mid of testing right now.
Yeah, you got a lot of irons in the fire.
Do you have a no-go list, like a no-glaze list? Like, don't combine these 2 glazes list?
No.
Whenever I test glaze combinations, I'll find ones that, and this is a side point, I'll find ones that either don't sell very well, or I'll find ones that just don't go well together, like they ruin each other. And I have a little list of like, do not mix.
Yeah.
Do not mix. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to find all the combinations in which sell better at anime conventions and whatnot, or sell better on the website. Yeah. And then the list of stuff that's just like, don't mix red and this red. Yeah. Because it just turns one red. You've just wasted a whole layer of glaze.
Yeah. Yeah, I had wanted, honestly, to do something for the holiday update, or as a holiday update, but I just didn't get it together to do it, basically. Like, I
concentrated on Sac Anime.
Yeah, same. I've been concentrating on Sac Anime, and like, I don't know, I had a really, really lovely fall, like after Sac Anime summer, but I'm gonna be real, I think I was not as focused as I should have been in terms of like efficiency in the studio. So I don't have anything that's going up for the holidays, but I
might stay on the website, really check the blog, and then side eye the store. Yeah.
Well, those are our thoughts on working with local businesses. Hope it has been helpful. If you have any thoughts about what your experiences have been working with local businesses, any questions that you want answered, send messages. My kind of okay. Last thing, and then we'll go. What basically, I talk about this a little bit more on the Night Peddlers episode. So if you're a patron, go ahead and have a listen, because the episode will either be out or it'll be out soon. But my plan for kind of like trying to getting back into the social media routine is to start with just answering messages and not so much with like posting a lot of stuff, because I kind of feel like I need to get to the graveyard of unanswered messages before I start posting more, which will add to that graveyard, and I really want to respond to y'all. So I see you. I'm so sorry I haven't responded. I'm getting there. I'm working on it. That's the plan.
I forgot who it was, but I did get a message of someone who's like, "You haven't read my question yet. Did I offend you?" She was so worried. She was like, God. "I spelled your name wrong, and I'm so sorry if I offended you." And I read it 3 or 4 times because I was like, did I say something like too blunt to this person? And she's not the kind of person that like is a direct communication person. Yeah. But no, it's just she sent you a message and you just haven't read it yet. So she thinks we're mad at her.
Oh my God. Oh no.
I cleared it up. No, I cleared it up.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Jesus.
I told her, like, I promise you, none of us are mad at you.
Yeah, no, it's 100% me. Yeah. It's 100% me.
I'm like, Lindsey just doesn't check her messages like I do. I check them immediately. Yeah. But we tell people on the cast, like, yo, don't message me, message Lindsey.
Yeah.
Because I don't want more work.
Right. And I it's just know, dear listener, just know that if you're ever thinking like, man, I can't be a real business person because I don't do XYZ, just know that I am a flawed individual.
Just know.
And I'm doing my best.
Lindsey's on meds, and I'm taking the amount of pre-workout that would kill a horse just to get to the holiday season for you. Yep. Don't be like, oh, I need to be a regulated person.
Yeah, no.
I don't need to be regulated. I have monster energy drinks.
Also go to therapy, guys.
No!
Everybody needs therapy.
I won't!
Alright, bye guys. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Mud Peddlers. We would love to hear from you, so if you want to share your thoughts about the episodes or just see what Donte and I are working on in our studios, come say hi. You can find links to my social media at lindseymdillon.com. That's LINDSEY, M as in monster, DILLON.com.
And you can visit my pottery shop or see what I'm working on at earthnationceramics.com. And you can find me all over social media at Earth Nation Ceramics. It's spelled exactly how you think it's spelled.
And if you want to support the show, hear some bonus episodes, and see some behind the scenes of my work, you can support me and the show at patreon.com/Lindsey M Dillon. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.